I told you if you yell one more time, you're gonna get it.
Martin Lawrence and Tisha Campbell were involved in a very dramatic scandal that caused a lot of damage. As well as hurting relationships, it led to the cancellation of their iconic sitcom Martin. But more recently, the former co-stars have spoken about working toward fixing things between them. And trust me, when you hear the shocking details about what happened between them, this will sound pretty amazing. Martin was one of the most successful sitcoms of the 1990s, racking up around 11 million viewers in its very first season. A major factor in the show's popularity was the couple goals that were Gina and Martin, played by Tisha and Martin. Their on-screen chemistry and natural humor helped make them one of the most relatable couples on TV. However, in the show's final days, viewers started noticing things that suggested that everything was not okay, and the truth of what was happening behind the scenes ended up bringing everything crashing down. In its final season in 1997, audiences noticed that Gina, played by Tisha, did not share any scenes with Martin. Obviously, for an on-screen couple, this seemed kind of bizarre. The reason behind this was eventually discovered after the end of the show's run, and it came as a huge shock. During the later years of the show, Tisha actually filed a lawsuit against Martin. Her claims in the lawsuit were not easy to hear. Tisha accused Martin of things like harm and battery. According to the suit, Tisha was actually hospitalized due to the stress brought about by Martin's actions. Obviously, this was devastating news to those of us who loved the show and Martin and Tisha's relationship on it. When the accusations were made public, there were a lot of competing theories about how everything started. Some thought that the actors' chemistry might have continued when the cameras were off, and suggested that Martin and Tisha were having an affair during the show's run. In 1996, the year before the end of the sitcom, Tisha married her boyfriend, fellow actor Dune Martin. And some people hinted that Dune's jealousy of Martin influenced Tisha to burn her bridges with her co-star. In fact, there were details in Tisha's accusations that might give us an idea about how Dune felt about Martin. In the records of the lawsuit, Tisha noted that Martin would often make remarks about Dune on set, and that Dune hated this so much that he instigated the lawsuit. Another fan theory popped up suggesting that maybe Tisha did what she did to hide the facts about her alleged affair with Martin from her husband. Both of these theories came from fans of the show who found it difficult to believe all the horrible things Tisha accused Martin of doing to her. Obviously, no one would want to believe Martin was capable of such things, but what if there was more to Tisha's claims than people were prepared to believe? An off-screen romance was never confirmed between Martin and Tisha, but the rumors started early and never really went away during their time together on the show. So when the two actors failed to appear in any scenes together in season 5, many of us naturally thought something had happened. Reports came out claiming that toward the end of filming, Tisha actually walked off set and never returned. When news of this leaked to the public, it was thought that the pair fell out during the last season. But many of us were shocked when details of the lawsuit suggested there had been problems since the beginning of the show in 1992. Tisha claimed in the lawsuit that during season 1, Martin repeatedly asked her on dates, which supposedly forced Tisha to spend a lot of time shooting him down. The suit went on to allege that in season 2, Martin became increasingly manic and volatile. Apparently, he would often go into uncontrollable rages for no obvious reason, and even threatened to fire staff. It seemed, according to Tisha, that success had gone to Martin's head, and he now thought he should always get whatever he wanted. The next season, things allegedly got much worse. Tisha claimed that Martin harmed and humiliated her on a number of occasions. It was at this point that Tisha became so stressed by what she endured on set that she ended up in the hospital. She started trying to think of ways to make it easier for her to do her work. Allegedly, she kept asking the show's writers to avoid writing scenes where she had to share a bed with Martin. And by the way, this alone should have given the writers a heads up that something was really wrong here, but they allegedly chose to ignore Tisha's pleas. The reason she said she wanted to avoid those intimate scenes as much as possible was really disturbing. Tisha accused Martin of repeatedly groping her during scenes when presented with the opportunity, and she also accused him of using tongue during their kissing scenes against her wish. Obviously, if true, that's not something that anyone should ever have to put up with at work, but it took something even crazier for Tisha to finally walk away. She said that she made the decision to leave after witnessing one of Martin's most explosive temper tantrums to date. Allegedly, he went off on another cast member in such an insane way that Tisha felt afraid for her safety. She told producers that she would be leaving the show for good, but the way they supposedly reacted to this news was really horrific. Instead of supporting her decision, HBO apparently sued Tisha in an attempt to force her to return to the show. This was what actually led to Tisha filing a lawsuit of her own, which resulted in the public learning all about the appalling charges Martin then faced. He denied all accusations put against him and claimed to feel deeply hurt by them. Later on, he even said that Tisha was lying to try and get herself a better contract on the show. Although, to be honest, it would be a pretty weird way to go about getting a raise. However, a lot of people seemed to take Martin's side in the fallout. They thought that everything had come about due to their alleged secret romance. The lawsuit was eventually settled out of court, but the damage had already been done to Martin and Tisha's relationship. Years passed without them speaking to each other. However, more recently, it seems like things have improved. When their Martin co-star Thomas Ford passed away in 2016, they were reunited at his funeral. 2 years later, TMZ snapped them together with another co-star, Tisha Arnold. After such a bad fallout with so many terrible accusations being thrown at each other, seeing them together again was shocking. And things only got more confusing in 2020 when Martin was once again talking about the lawsuit in a GQ interview. He described the whole thing as BS that just didn't happen. Martin also claimed that the lawsuit was the reason he walked away from the show. In saying this, he denied that the show was ever canceled, instead claiming that he ended it on his own terms. Tisha was later asked about Martin's comments, and she claimed that she was shocked by them. However, she said that she couldn't go into more detail because of the gag order that came with the settlement. At this stage, no one had any idea what Martin and Tisha's relationship was like. But then last year, Tisha surprised us all again when she said that they had healed. This came out when she was speaking on the People Everyday podcast about the upcoming Martin reunion show. For Tisha to feel comfortable returning to the set where she claimed to have experienced so much stress meant that something must have changed. She described the reunion as a celebration, and while she admitted that she felt nervous, it wasn't about meeting up with Martin and the cast. Apparently, she was only nervous about seeing if people would embrace the show again. When asked about the lawsuit that drove her and Martin apart, she said that it was a personal situation that they had all healed from, but she refused to talk anymore about it. Martin was also asked about how things were between them at the premiere of the reunion. He said that it was nothing but love. But what do you guys think? Is everything really all love between Martin and Tisha? Did they heal from the situation? Let me know in the comments below.